Hi everybody, it's Shari here. This week we're teaming up with Timeless Twine, and I have made this card using this yellow, gray, and white Timeless Twine that they sent me. And I'm going to be using this little strip of paper I cut from the light blue pattern paper from Hello Sunshine. It's from a 12 by 12 sheet, and I cut it to 2 inches by 4 inches wide. And that other white piece of cardstock is cut slightly smaller, just probably 1/8 of an inch smaller on each side. I'm going to be using the medium-sized cloud from the Spring Showers die set, and I'm going to be die cutting some clouds out of this little blue panel. So I'm going to line up my cloud. I'm using my grid on my cutting mat here to make the bottom straight with the grid that's on the pattern paper. And I'm just using some post-it note tape to stick those down after they're lined up, and I'm running them through my die cut machine. Now this one is going to overlap, so it's actually going to cut off that piece at the top. It's not going to be attached at all. So you can see it's completely detached now, but it'll work out later when we adhere it to the twine panel. And I'm lining it up with my grid mat so I know exactly how the spacing is, even though it's not attached to each other anymore. And I'm going to grab the sentiment that I want to use, which is the thanks from the mini thanks set, this bold thanks right here. And I'm just going to lay that stamp on there. Mine's a little stained, so it's a little orange, but I'm going to lay that stamp on there so that I can line up where I want the cloud on the bottom to go. And then I'll just tack that down and run it through my die cut machine as well. So now that I have all those little pieces of clouds cut out, I picked out the charcoal Hero Arts shadow ink because I think that the gray matches the gray in the twine pretty well, and I'm going to use that to stamp my sentiment on my panel. So I'm just using my grid on my mat again to make sure it's nice and straight. So now I'm taking that white piece of cardstock that I said was slightly smaller than 2 by 4, and I'm taking the twine. I'm just using a piece of clear Scotch tape, and I'm taping it as close to the top as I can, and I'm just checking there to make sure that it is above where the highest part of that upper cloud is, so that I don't have any cardstock showing. And I'm just going to wrap it around the card over and over again until I have the whole card filled. So I skipped through that part, and actually I managed to somehow miss the part of me gluing the blue pieces down on top of the twine. So what I did was I just used some liquid glue and adhered it, put the glue on the back of the paper and then just laid it on top of the twine panel. So now I'm going to adhere the clouds. I've cut these out of that tiny gray polka dot paper from Hello Sunshine, and I'm going to line those up, lay them down, and then line up the panel on top of it so that it looks like the cloud is continuous. Part of it's twine and part of it is the paper behind it. And I'm going to do this for all 3 of the clouds so they overhang outside of this 2 by 4 blue panel. I chose the gray because there's gray in the twine and I felt like it matched pretty well. Now that these are all adhered down, I'm going to move on to the white card base that I have here, and I'm using the wood grain backdrop stamp, and I'm using the new soft vanilla ink from Hero Arts because it's a really soft, creamy color, and it's a nice tone-on-tone color. I just wanted to add a little more to the really stark white card base and just kind of tone it down slightly, and I thought this was a nice subtle way to do that. So I'm lining it up with my stamp press here, and I'm going to stamp it twice, one on each side, so that I have a continuous pattern across my card. So there I've stamped it side by side, and you can kind of see the seam down the middle a little bit, but it's mostly going to be covered up by that paper panel with the twine. So now I'm going to adhere down this panel, and I'm going to use my liquid glue again, and you can see that there's no adhesive between the twine and the cardstock in there, so I'm just kind of sticking the point of that down between the twine a little bit to kind of get some glue in there so it'll hold it to the cardstock, keep it from bowing up. So that's why I'm using the liquid glue too, because it can kind of get in those cracks and hold everything together really well. So I'm just going to line it up. Again, I'm using the grid to make sure things are straight. It helps me eyeball it. And because I use liquid glue here, I'm going to take my clear block and just set it on top and leave it there and let it dry. Gives it some little weight to hold it down. So I've pulled out the Hello Sunshine sequins that match, and I pulled out some of the blues and silvers and the white and placed them around on my card where I want them. And now that I have the placement, I'm going to use this multi-matte medium there, and I've just squirted a little bit on one of those scrap clouds and use my tweezers to adhere down all the sequins right where I want them. And once all those sequins are adhered down, the card is finished. And there's the card. So it's pretty simple, just the twine is the star of the show on this card. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.